Hello everybody, welcome to the Thursday edition of Video Clips. Just when I think the FDA has done as much for the drug companies as it possibly can, the agency thinks about new ways to help drug companies to promote their products. The FDA has just requested commentary from both health professionals and the public on a proposal that would reduce the number of risks stated in direct-to-consumer broadcast ads. If this proposal is adopted, the drug companies will only have to list those risks that are life-threatening or serious enough to result in hospitalization or disability, or are actionable, meaning that the person has a side effect that is so horrific that they have to discontinue taking the drug as a result of the side effect. The ads would also have to state that there are risks other than those listed, and so you should discuss this with your healthcare provider. Now, you know how healthcare providers are so cautious on the making sure you understand the side effects of drugs issue, right? Well, the current rules state that broadcast ads must present the most serious risks in, quote, clear, conspicuous manner, and the statements must be spoken. The ads can direct consumers to a website, a toll-free number, or to a healthcare provider for risks that are deemed less serious. If this new proposal does take effect, just think about this. There will be more time in the ads to talk about the benefits and less time allocated to listing side effects, which is, I'm sure, the point. To justify this huge favor to Big Pharma, the FDA cites a study, and I just laughed out loud when I was reading this by myself, showing that viewers recall both risks and benefits better when the list is shorter. You think? I mean, I'm sure this is true. Shorter lists are easier to remember after they're read, regardless of what the list was all about. Diana Zuckerman, PhD, president of the National Center for Health Research, says that that's ludicrous, and a much better thing would have been to evaluate long-term recall, both risks and benefits. That's more likely what drives people to do some of the things that they do. Now, in my opinion, the real discussion shouldn't be about reducing the number of side effects listed in the ads, but about whether or not the direct-to-consumer ads should be allowed in the first place. There are only 2 countries in the world that allow direct-to-consumer advertising by drug companies. That's the United States and New Zealand. Not allowed anyplace else on the planet. There's a good reason for this. Pharma, the drug company's trade group, says that advertising increases awareness about various diseases and motivates patients to call their doctors to discuss treatment. But the real beneficiaries of these ads are drug companies, not the public. One of the major ways in which they benefit is that many healthy people can be convinced that they're sick, with conditions ranging from depression to overactive bladder. When they visit their doctor to discuss their quote-unquote conditions, they're directed, as they're directed to do so in the ads, their doctors enthusiastically confirm the diagnosis, look for anything else that might be wrong, and, of course, send people home with prescriptions, often with free samples that are provided by the drug companies. Isn't that a convenient and cozy relationship? It's hard to believe that pharma can say with a straight face that drug ads actually are a public service that results in better outcomes for patients, but they actually do allege that. There is no question that the purpose of the ads is to sell drugs, not to educate the public, because if the ads weren't paying off, the drug companies would simply stop spending so much money on them. And I want to give you an idea of what we're talking about in terms of money. This will tell you how much it pays off. In 2015, the drug companies spent $5.2 billion on media ad campaigns. That's billion with a B. In March 2016, 9 prescription drugs were on target to hit $100 billion in TV time alone by the end of the year. Over $1 billion was spent that year in advertising just 5 drugs: Humira, which treats a lot of conditions including arthritis; Lyrica for nerve and muscle pain including fibromyalgia, and it's also advertised for diabetic neuropathy; Eliquis, an anticoagulant that can reduce stroke risk in some patients; Cialis, the erectile dysfunction drug; and Xeljanz for rheumatoid arthritis. Perhaps the smartest comment about all this came from Dr. Sidney Wolfe. I don't know this guy, but I really like him. He's founder and senior advisor to the Health Research Group of Public Citizen. Dr. Wolfe says the FDA proposal is missing the boat entirely because it doesn't change the way that the ads are designed. Listing dangerous side effects while smiling and energetic patients or pushing their kids on swings and playing golf and attending sporting events really doesn't convey how dangerous the drugs can be. I've talked about this for many, many years. You know, some of them show people having so much fun you almost want to develop diabetes just so you can join the party, right? Pictures of people in wheelchairs, vomiting, curled up in the fetal position with pain, or families attending funerals. Now that would give people a real idea of what the risk factors are for these drugs. I don't think that's going to happen, however. Dr. Zuckerman adds that listing the percentage of patients who experience a particular side effect along with severity would be perhaps a more useful addition. You know, is it a headache or is it a blinding, disabling migraine where you spend 3 days in bed, for example? Adrian Few-Berman, MD, is the director of Farmed Out, with a PH at the beginning, a group that promotes evidence-based prescribing. If we're stuck with advertising, and we probably are, since the FDA shows no signs of reining in the drug companies in any way, one of the reasons being that the FDA takes in hundreds of millions of dollars a year from drug companies. Last year, I think the number was $781,660,000. Well, anyway, Dr. Few-Berman says that the longer list is actually better. She said the issue is not if somebody can recite back to you the list of side effects as much as it is that people remember, my gosh, was that a long list? And I know that that does register because many times when talking about drugs and that sort of thing, and circles of people who don't hear from me every week like you do and aren't really on board with these concepts, many people have said, my gosh, with that list of side effects, who actually calls doctors for these drugs? Well, obviously somebody does, or they wouldn't be spending $5.2 billion a year. Well, the issue is open for comment until November 20th of this year, 2017. I don't think the comments will make a difference. In all likelihood, the FDA and the drug companies have already gotten together. They've made their deal, and the proposal and comment period are both a legal requirement and a way to make it look like the agency is interested in hearing what others have to say, but it's become so industry friendly. I mean, they approved 96% of new drug applications last year, so I don't think they're too concerned about what anybody has to say, except their real clients, the drug makers themselves. All right, that's all for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think might enjoy watching it, and I'll be back to you next week with more news.